I'm Grace.
So let's get started.
I'm a recipe blogger, family-taught home chef,
Cheers.
Cheers.
iPhone-only photographer, and proud New Englander.
This chocolate pie will make your Valentine's swoon. A buttery, homemade shortbread cookie crust filled with a creamy, velvety chocolate filling. I'm drooling. I have tried a lot of chocolate pies out there, and there's one thing that I feel like a chocolate pie is always missing, and it's a really good crust. Something a little bit more original and not just your standard pie crust. Instead, I'm talking about a shortbread cookie pie crust. It sounds really good, doesn't it? So it's really easy to make because we're going to be using store-bought shortbread cookies, and this is not an ad, but I am using Lorna Doones today. It's like my brain. So we're using Lorna Doones today, and you can use whatever kind of shortbread cookie you can find in the grocery store, just your standard old cookie, nothing super fancy, nothing soft. You want like the hard shortbread cookies. And you're just gonna use them all. So start unwrapping. Oh, and it's closed. My cookies are in a food processor, and to it I'm going to add just a little pinch of salt, just for flavor. And then this is the secret ingredient, and you might find this a little weird, but it's a 1/4 cup of just regular white sugar. And the reason why I add this in here is not to make your cookies sweeter, but actually to bind your crust together. It reacts with our melted butter that we're gonna be adding in soon and creates a really nice crust that doesn't fall apart and flake all over the place. So before we add that butter, we're just going to turn this guy on, and we're going to turn this into a nice fine crumb. I'm trying to not make a mess here, but I want to show you guys what I mean. This is what you want, a nice fine crumb. Looks kind of like breadcrumbs. And now I'm just going to take the little metal blade out of my food processor, and I'm going to pour my melted butter right into the food processor, just like this. And that's what's going to bind our crust together. Little mix. Perfect. If you could smell this room, you would be about to lick the spoon too, because that's what I feel like doing right now. So I have a 9-inch pie plate, just a standard pie plate, and I'm going to pour all my crumbs right into the pie plate. I happen to just find a stray spoon laying around. I don't even know if I want the chocolate pie anymore, I just want this. Then you're just gonna take that same spoon, and you're going to use the back of the spoon, it's better if you use a big spoon, to press your cookie mixture into your pan or your pie plate. And once you kind of get it working here, you're just gonna keep pushing down. Then we're going to work on the sides of this pie plate. So what I like to do is kind of use my hand, make sure your hands are clean, in the back of the spoon, and just do kind of like a press, just like this, around the edge of the pie plate, so that way you have really nice edges. See how it's kind of forming nice edges? And just keep going until you have a really nice and level pie crust. The final step for your pie crust is to just refrigerate it while you're making the filling. So I'm gonna pop this in the fridge and get my stuff for the chocolate filling. So for our chocolate filling, I'm going to be making basically a custard, but a chocolate custard. And this custard is gonna be creamy and velvety and intensely chocolatey from our semi-sweet chocolate, which I find is the perfect chocolate for this filling. I've tried using bittersweet chocolate, I've tried using milk chocolate, and it's just not the same. Semi-sweet is the key. And then in our custard, for our custard, we're gonna be using heavy cream, vanilla extract, salt, and egg yolks. So if you don't know how to separate the yolk from the white, all you gotta do is this. Give it a nice whack, open your egg up, and then you just wanna kind of go back and forth in between the two shells here, letting the white just kind of slide off and leaving the yolk, just like that. And you can kind of keep doing it until you just see the yolk. And then you wanna put the yolk separately in a bowl, just like that. I'm gonna keep going. Final step before we go over to the stove is just to lightly beat your yolks, just like that. That's it. Let's go to the stove and make this. So making custard is actually so easy to do, really unintimidating, if that's a word. All you wanna do is you just wanna take your heavy cream, pour it right into a pot, and then you wanna add your eggs, your egg yolks, that is. And then you wanna add your salt and your vanilla extract. You don't wanna add your chocolate, that's the only ingredient you're not adding. Now all you have to do is you're gonna turn your heat on medium heat, and you're gonna take a wooden spoon and you're just gonna keep mixing this mixture until it's boiling hot, really, really hot, but not boiling, not simmering. So really, really hot, but not quite simmering. And then you're going to perform the wooden spoon test, which I'll show you what that means in a second. So you wanna keep stirring your mixture the entire time, or else your eggs will start to cook inside the cream and you'll get a chunky custard, and nobody likes that. So it's been 7 or 8 minutes or so, and you can see that we have a little bit of steam coming up. It's getting hot. I wouldn't call it steaming hot though, quite yet. And it's not really getting close to a simmer. You can also see that it's starting to coat the back of the spoon a little bit, but it's not really that thick. You can see a little line, but I really want a really distinguished line with sides that are a little bit more white. So I'm gonna keep stirring for maybe like 2 minutes or so. Let's see. All right, we're getting close to a point where this is gonna start simmering any second from now, and I'm feeling a little resistance on my spoon when I'm stirring. And you can see we have a nice thick coating now and a great line. And that's exactly what you want. So what I'm going to do is I'm just gonna turn my heat off, and I'm going to add in my chocolate and give it a nice stir. So I just melted in my chocolate, and it looks a little lumpy and weird, and we don't want that. So how do we fix it? We put it in a blender. So I'm just gonna pour all of this mixture in a blender and blend it until it's nice and smooth and creamy. So we need to chill our filling now for about 30 minutes or so, just so it's not piping hot, and then we're going to add it to our pie crust. Where do we go? It's cooled just a little bit, and so has our pie crust. And now I'm just going to pour the filling right into our pie. And I just like to just kind of even it out, even though it's still kind of liquidy. And that's really it. I'm going to refrigerate this for another about hour or so until it sets. You can refrigerate it longer if you want, but an hour is the minimum. This is how I like it. Just set, not quite completely chilled. Let's take it. Oh my gosh. Usually, this kind of thing wouldn't be my kind of thing, but the pie crust, the shortbread cookie crust, takes this over the top. The filling, perfectly chocolatey. I'm gonna stop talking. Check this out on tastefullygrace.com. You won't regret it. Soon this will be filled with the best crust ever, and I will be tempted to eat it alone.